Welcome, everyone, to episode 291 of the Alamo Audible podcast, brought to you by the Public and Football Podcast Network. This is your host, Jared Thomas, joined by my co-host, Adrian Bermudez, for some pretty juicy updates in this one. We've got some coaching moves, some transfer portal news, and, of course, a bowl preview as the Roadrunners head to their sixth straight bowl under Jeff Traylor's guidance.
Wow, man. Yeah, massive developments happening for the UTSA Roadrunners after the regular season concludes. And, we've been kind of running around. Jared and Javi were doing a lot for early signing day and trying to give you all of the recruiting coverage. And while that was unfolding, we had all of this rumor mill swirling around coaching staff and former UTSA coaches being hired at bigger jobs. And now they're coming and grabbing some of those UTSA assistants, taking them with them, namely Justin Burke and Coach Joe Price as well. And we really haven't had any time to sort of jump on this flaming news bit that has been going on, Jared, but it's kind of good because there's a lot more that has developed, and now there's actually more to talk about rather than just the news breaking itself, right? We have some context to add.
Yeah, for sure. When we get to Justin Burke too, I'm not really sure what's going on with Burke, man. I mean, he's not going to be the play caller. He hasn't not been announced at Kentucky as far as I've seen. So, I think he's still going to be on staff there, but it's kind of gotten to be a weird situation, it seems.
It's all weird rumor mill things, right? I mean, so the way this all happened, former UTSA offensive coordinator Will Stein gets hired as the head coach at the University of Kentucky. And almost immediately, Justin Burke's name is associated with the hiring. And even before the University of Kentucky had given an official press release on Will Stein's hiring, Twitter and social media was talking about Justin Burke going with Will Stein. It's like, wait, we haven't even seen that Will Stein's the head coach being announced. And all of that has continued sort of to happen. We kind of got a confirmation from Jeff Traylor in one of his press conferences that Justin Burke was in fact going to be leaving UTSA and joining Will Stein at Kentucky. In passing, he kind of confirmed it, right?
Sort of. I mean, I don't think he's ever come out and said Burke is for sure gone. He said stuff like, until there's a signature on a piece of paper. He's left some ambiguity around the situation, is my impression.
Right.
And I think when a new coach is hired, things are very fluid and they're moving very quickly. And I think someone could be on someone's short list, and then maybe it doesn't turn out that way. So I just don't really know. I feel like most likely he does end up as a co-OC, tight ends coach or something like that at Kentucky, but it doesn't seem like it's a done deal. And I don't think the door is completely shut on Justin Burke ending up as the OC at UTSA next year either. I'll say that. It's an way out there, but it doesn't seem like it's wrapped up with a bow on it just quite yet. But Traylor did confirm that Burke is not with the program. He's not calling plays in the bowl game. We know that for sure.
Correct. So that much is for certain. Justin Burke is not on the UTSA sideline as of currently. The offensive coordinator duties have been handed down on an interim basis to tight ends coach Hunter Ritterman, who will be calling the plays at the bowl. That much has been confirmed by Jeff Traylor. We know that. And we also know, and this has also been confirmed by Jeff Traylor and UTSA Athletics Office, that there is a full-on search and interview process occurring for a new offensive coordinator of the Roadrunners. And that is including internal talent search as well as external talent search. And this is something that has been very openly discussed from Jeff Traylor. So we know that much. We know that UTSA's offensive coordinator for the bowl game on an interim basis will be Hunter Ritterman. And UTSA's offensive coordinator in 2026 is completely
TBD.
To be determined, TBD. And they are making that determination right now through a national search firm and a coaching search and an interview process. And Jeff Traylor being very candid in his discussions about it, his commentary, weighing the external hires. Very, very tedious task for Jeff Traylor. In his 21 years as a head football coach, dating back to his high school days, he has never hired externally. He said that in his press conference earlier this week. This would
And
be
I assume he meant for coordinators when he said that, right?
correct in a coordinator sort of position role. He didn't specify that much, but that part I think was paraphrased. But he did say, in my 21-year coaching career, I've never hired externally. And that's kind of shocking, right? I mean, to have only done internal promotions for a coordinator or a coach sort of position, a large position like this, it's kind of jarring, right? It makes you wonder. So he does realize that he's got to be very, very careful if he's going to make an external hire, and that's the way that he's talking about it. That he's being extremely careful with it, and that there's no rush for him to make this decision either. You talk about coaching carousels moving very fast, Jared. It seems like that's the opposite approach that Jeff Traylor's taking, because he wants to make sure that he gets it right. But how right is that approach?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there are coordinators on the open market that are without a job right now that want to get snatched up ASAP. But I don't think, I mean, like, we do see this every year. Like, some of these positions go through like multiple iterations. Like, one guy might accept the defensive line position at school B, and then next thing you know, a Power 4 program has that same position open up and they leave within 1 year. You know, these coordinators and these, you know, position coaches for the most part don't have like these really big buyouts. And a lot of times this is like kind of a not so well known fact about coaching changes. A lot of these guys don't actually sign the contract for months after the hire is announced, because it goes through all this like arduous legal process and stuff like that. So that's why, like, you even see some head coaches sometimes will get announced at one school and then end up at another school in the same cycle because they never actually signed paperwork. They might have signed like a memorandum of understanding or whatever like that, but nothing that would actually cause a buyout to kick into place. So personally, I think it's okay to move slowly, to, you know, be very deliberate about it. You know, ideally you have someone in place with a couple of weeks before signing day to go make your moves, right? With an OC, you would typically want someone who can go get their quarterback, but UTSA already signed Gisperson, so I don't know if there's as much urgency there as typically you would if like that quarterback would have like decommitted or, you know, hit the portal or whatever. So personally, I'm okay with it. I just don't want it to drag out another like 4 to 5 weeks. If they could get someone in the next like 2-3 weeks, I think that's totally fine.
You like to see the hire by the end of the year or early January of the
early January,
first week of January, we can call it 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would say so, because that'll be like after the bowl games. Most programs will be done with playoffs, even if you're FBS, FCS, whatever. So that would be like, that's when a lot of coaching moves start to happen, and then you have another round after the full signing day as well. So keep in mind, you know, UTSA can certainly lose more coaches as you head into February and March as well.
Well, Jared, if it is in fact true that Justin Burke is departing the program, let's spend some time on Justin Burke and his exit and what that sort of means, Jared. You know, it's crazy. All year long, we've had people on the Twitter thumbs calling for staff changes. Justin Burke is one of those names that people have asked to see some staff changes about it, particularly that offensive coordinator position. We've discussed Justin Burke's job that he's done here and how well he's done it. And I think you and I have sort of been in agreement that Justin Burke has been fine, if not good, at offensive coordinator. I was going to use the same word,
fine. Yeah.
He's been fine. He's been good even at offensive coordinator, but it doesn't feel like he's been the best guy at the position that UTSA could get. It does feel like maybe there's a room for improvement. We've acknowledged that, but Justin Burke has had a pretty good run here. He's had a lot of really good talent to work with. But, you know, when you actually look at the resume on paper, it looks pretty fantastic. Whenever you start to break it down into the context, that's whenever you can start getting nitpicky and saying, well, hasn't been great. He's been fine. But if you look at the paper, it's kind of great. It actually is kind of great.
If you're a Kentucky fan, you look at this resume and you're like, this is awesome. I'm all in for this. I'm really excited. I think you have to be the kind of fan that like watches every game and questions every decision to have some level of skepticism about it.
During Burke's time in San Antonio, the Roadrunners have enjoyed the most successful 5-year run in program history with a 46-20 overall record, 31-8 regular season league mark, 2 conference championships, 5 bowl appearances, back-to-back bowl wins. In 2024, Burke oversaw UTSA offense that produced almost 5,900 total yards, averaging 451 yards per game, which was 12th overall in the FBS. This is Justin Burke's bio on GoUTSA.com that I am.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive numbers, Jared.
Yep. But, he had 2 of UTSA's 3 best quarterbacks in program history to work with. So that obviously helps. I think probably my biggest concern with Burke that we never really felt the effects of, but we might in the future, is the lack of quarterback development and talent evaluation at the quarterback position. We've spoken in our kind of post regular season recap that we felt like one of the under radar reasons why UTSA struggled this season so much was they did not feel super comfortable with maybe benching Owen McCowan for a week or two to let his body recover. I think there's a lot of questions, right, in the rest of the quarterback position room. You saw some fans calling for Brandon Tennyson, but usually most fan bases have this freshman phenom that they saw a glimpse of in the spring game, and they're like, oh yeah, we can't wait for this guy to take the field. Haven't really seen that with UTSA under Burke. And I have definitely felt like they have let some guys go out of state at the quarterback position that I would have loved for them to scoop up and get on the roster and all of that. I think just the lack of quality depth at quarterback was an issue with Burke. I don't think if he does end up at Kentucky, I don't think it's going to be a bigger problem because I think Will Stein will be great about picking and recruiting quarterbacks. But that's one area where I had concerns with him long-term at UTSA because of that. And, when I was talking with someone that covered Kentucky this past week, I was like, my read on Burke is I think he's a good game planner and he's a good strategic mind, but not a great play caller, right? A lot of times whenever the bullets were flying in game, it felt like UTSA was slow to respond to adjustments from the defense. And then sometimes a lot of those situational play calls, the 3rd and shorts, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, I think sometimes some of the calls there were very predictable or just didn't pan out. And, how much of that is talent and execution versus, just catching the defense off guard. But, overall, the numbers don't lie. He was a good offensive coordinator. He's probably top 3 in this program's history for OCs, which, I think both sides, have some truth behind them. And, he probably shouldn't have come back for another year versus, he actually was pretty good. I think there's truth on both sides.
Yeah, definitely so. The in-game adjustments are the biggest qualm for me, Jared. But yeah, UTSA's lacked depth at the quarterback position throughout the entirety of this program's history, and Justin Burke, I don't think is the first victim of that. But, he was one of the longest tenured offensive coordinators that we've had here. I mean, how many offensive coordinators have done 5 years at UTSA? It doesn't happen.
He's probably the only one, right?
The only one. He's got to be the longest tenured guy. And so if anyone should have been able to add some depth to the quarterback room, it should be the guy that was here the longest, right? But no, it's still something that we struggle with, the development. I mean, Jeff Traylor said earlier this week, Owen McCowan is not going to be 100% healthy until well into the offseason, until 6 weeks into 2026 or whatever he said.
Yeah, well, to me, that tells me that he's going to have a surgery in the offseason, right?
Yes, correctly. Yeah, because he knew that timetable very, very approximately.
Right.
And it's a guy that is not 100% healthy going into playing this bowl game against FIU that we're going to preview on the back half of this podcast. But it makes you wonder, should you be throwing your starting quarterback into a, let's call it what it is, not very heavily weighted bowl game, just for the sake of getting that 7th win on the season, right? but you risk injuring him for 2026 football. It's just the only quarterback that you have on the roster, snaps in this bowl game. So you have to run out an injured Owen McCown or a not 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Owen
also like every player on every roster in the bowl season is banged up.
Right.
You go through a 12
Sure.
game season. Yeah, it is what it is.
But Owen's been beat up for 9 of those 12
Right.
weeks. He's been beat up all year long, and we haven't had the people behind him to be able to get him that rest, like you say, Jared.
One last thing on Burke. I know we have a lot more to talk about today. I do appreciate like his style of offense. I thought was fun to watch. Generally, it was not boring. There were times where it got kind of slogged down and all of that, but I really like the use of the tight ends. I like the 12 personnel. I like the way they use the H-back. They weren't as consistent with it, I think, is how I would like to see, throughout, full seasons. But overall, I mean, I thought the system was good. It was entertaining. And I say that because, not to give away all of our Patreon content, but one of the potential OCs we've been tracking was in the playoffs this weekend for the FCS. And, watching his offense, it wasn't a very pretty one, right? Like, they put points on the board and they win games and all that. But, I thought Burke's offense was fun to watch. I mean, I think he did a good job of getting his best players the ball and all of that. So that could be something that we see a step back in, right? Some of the names that have been floated in association with this job, they might be effective and they might win, but they may not be as fun to watch. So that could be a bummer.
Yeah, man. Really, I think also knew how to draw up an offense to the roster's strengths.
Yeah.
He did a good job of that. But high watchability, baby. High watchability in the Alamo.
The scripted drives were amazing, dude. I mean, you could almost, I bet if we did like points per drive for like the opening drive of the first and second half of like every game under Justin Burke is probably like pretty damn high.
Yeah. Those moments where they're just rolling. Yeah, those are all those scripted drives that he drew up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe Price also, they're taking UTSA's aerial attack to Kentucky is what it seems like, right? You get the wide receivers coach, you get the offensive coordinator, an aerial attack that has worked very, very well here in the 210.
Yeah, I would say I'm more upset about Price leaving than Burke. I mean, I think Price was just a great guy. He had a really fun personality. He was great with the fans. He was very visible too. I feel like a lot of the assistant coaches, and this is not just at UTSA, it's anywhere. Also going back to like previous, head coaching staff too. They don't like interact with fans all that much. Or, like they don't get as attached to the program and like kind of integrate themselves into the community. I feel like Joe Price did that, right? So definitely appreciated him for that. Gonna miss him. Just one of those guys you only heard great things about. Obviously the North Shore, that kind of East Houston connection, like
North Shore pipeline, man. The North Shore pipeline, dude. I mean, a powerhouse. And Joe Price was able to bring a lot of North Shore, and he was at Galena Park too, so he had that whole East Side locked down.
Atascocita as well.
Come on now, and he brought a lot of talent with he was able to get some talent over here from that North Shore pipeline, and namely right now, David Amador.
I was going to say Shad Banks was his parting gift to the program.
Wow, yeah, great point, Jared. Great point. Yeah, that North Shore pipeline has really been tremendous, and yeah, that's all the work of Joe Price.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I will say though, to kind of flip to the other side of things, I don't think that pipeline's been flowing as well these past 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amador is the last high school guy that UTSA signed out of that East Houston area.
It was about 3 years ago that he was signed to this program, Jared.
Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously, he deserves a ton of credit for Shad Banks coming in and being one of the best linebackers that UTSA has ever had. But from a high school recruiting standpoint, which like that receiver coach position is supposed to be like your elite receiver, I don't think it's been as strong as it was, the first couple of years that he was here. And that's not to say he's not a great recruiter. He obviously is, but I think, maybe a change of scenery is good for everyone. So I do think he'll go crush it at Kentucky. I think he's going to get some absolute like high 3-star studs out of Houston to go play for the Wildcats. I think he'll have a lot of success there. But like the results, I would say like we're kind of middling these past couple of years at receiver.
This is two coaches that are not going to be on UTSA's coaching staff. Jared, you've talked a lot about just trimming down the size of the coaching staff as it is. So two guys out, you bring one guy in, or, and you move someone else to wide receivers coach. I mean, we've talked about slimming down that coaching staff on the sideline. What does that look like to you with these two movements?
Well, I mean, if you're slimming down in the area that I felt like maybe there's some fat, you would have to be doing internal promotions, unless you're just like firing off the guys below these
Right.
assistant coaches,
It's
right?
hard.
Which is, it's not fun. You don't want to do that. I think like one of the two will be internal. Right now, just my gut feeling is I think Traylor will go external for the OC, and I think he's going to have a promotion for one of the other guys that moves up into the receiver coach position. There are several guys on the coaching roster that I would feel okay jumping into that wide receiver coach position. For me right now, there's not a coach I feel comfortable stepping into the OC position for
Okay.
UTSA right now.
I agree with you. I think that's a very good take.
I think Ridman's got a great career ahead of him. I hope he stays at UTSA as a tight end coach. The tight ends have been a little bit up and down, but overall, they performed well and they've gotten a lot of accolades and all that. So I think Ridman's only going to get better as a coach. I hope he stays here, but he's not ready to jump into OC position yet. I almost feel like you're kind of setting him up for failure if you were to promote him, right?
Right, sure. Well, just the way that Jeff Traylor sort of spoke about the interviewing process for offensive coordinator, I am very bullish on him going external because it seems like he's spending a lot of time interviewing external candidates and evaluating external candidates. And he even said, like, look, if I'm going to go external, it's got to be right. It's got to be right. So, like, it clearly, like, it's what he wants to do. He just wants to make sure he nails it. He nails it. And,
See, that's funny. I've heard a lot of people interpret his comments about that as going in the opposite direction. Like he's like too scared of messing up an external hire, and he may feel like the internal one is the safer play.
He said something at the very end where he was like, I've been on Zoom all night, every day. And I was like, okay, so he's talking to a ton of people, right?
Yeah, yes.
If he was devoted to going internal, he wouldn't be spending so much time chopping it up with all of his old buddies in his coaching network. And so that does give me confidence. And the other thing is, the beginning, whenever he kind of talked about Hunter Riddiman and him getting the audition for offensive coordinator, I was like, oh man, he's going to stick internal. But then whenever he was talking about him being on all these Zoom meetings and phone calls and reaching out and doing all that, I am confident he's going to go external on the offensive coordinator.
So again, that's another area where I think I disagree with you, because I think the way that he talked about Riddiman's interim tag, to me, heavily indicated like this is a vote of confidence in your future, not your current, like not your present. Because he said something along the lines of like, he talked about when he got the interim head coach tag.
That's right, at SMU, yep.
Right, and he was like, that means that someone in that building thinks like you're going to be there one day, right? And that was my takeaway. It's like he likes Hunter a lot and he thinks that he's got a future. So he's going to give him this experience and like let him know like what it's going to be like once he does get to that level, which I think is really cool. But we'll see how it goes. This is all obviously just our own conjecture and our own interpretation. But the thing that really got me though, I think JJ asked, Coach, what's like the level of interest that you've gotten from the external candidates? Jeff's face was beaming. I mean, his eyes lit up. He had a big smile on his face. And like, it's kind of been a point in the fan base how little Jeff Traylor has smiled in his press conferences
in 2025. Yeah. There's a different energy. He does feel a little bit. Yeah. Dude, let's
put ourselves in the shoes of I'm gonna make him a hypothetical, right? I may sound like I'm describing a candidate, but I promise I'm not trying to. Like, let's say that you're a guy, you're from the Dallas area, high school recruit, went to a Power 5 program, had a nice little career there, a couple of years in the NFL. Now, like, let's say you're grinding your way up, you've done the GA thing, yada yada yada. Let's say you're a OC at an FCS school, or you're an assistant at a Power, quarterback's coach at a Power 4 or whatever. If you look at what UTSA has done under Jeff Traylor, you look at the resources they have relative to other programs, the way they've been able to take coaches and have them jump up the ladder. Every coach that's left this program has gotten a huge raise and a huge promotion wherever they've got. It's a springboard, man.
Absolutely.
Mean, look at all the OCs that have worked under Jeff Traylor. Where are they now? Head coach at Kentucky, offensive coordinator Illinois, co-OC at Kentucky, right? Why would you not want to get into that pipeline? And you're going to bring back a pretty good amount of offense again, right? You've got some rev share money that you're going to have the ability to go pick out some transfers and bring them in, but you're going to bring back a good amount of talent as well. So I think it's going to be a super enticing position. I think the pay is going to be good.
Yep.
I'd be lining up for it, just objectively speaking.
As far as Jeff Traylor's collegiate career, time at UTSA, is this the biggest decision of Jeff Traylor's collegiate career thus far? Is it the most impactful coaching move that he is going to make thus far?
Well, I think the biggest decision was to take the Texas Tech job or not. There's no denying that was the biggest one. But I think for stuff that would like impact his own program at UTSA, yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance it's number one. Because I think you can kind of feel the momentum for the program kind of hitting a flat line right now. And I think the right hire could re-energize things. And they take off and, they start kicking ass again. But a bad hire, a guy that introduces a very sluggish offense that's not scoring at a good rate and the fans aren't having fun watching it, it could get pretty bleak, So I think this probably is his most important coaching decision.
We haven't seen a UTSA head coach make that, second external coordinator hire successfully thus far through our three head coaches.
That's true.
Can Traylor be the one to right that ship here? Because we've seen it before. We've seen the writing on the wall. We've seen the flat line and then the turnover on the staff and then just the pit of despair that we fall into from there. So let's hope we have an answer by early 2026 on what the future of UTSA's offensive coaching staff is going to look like. And if you want a little bit more tea, well, there's a fantastic post on Patreon where you can read about potential candidates that Jeff Traylor may or may not be interviewing and evaluating for the position. If you are subscribed, that is available.
I'll say that one of those guys is now being followed by a large number of UTSA coaches on Twitter. And I don't know, that could have happened years ago. I don't know, but someone sent me that screenshot. Pretty interesting. It's a good list, though. I think. I mean, even if none of those guys get hired, I think it's fun to look at that and think about it. The silly season of the coaching carousel is like one of my favorite parts of the year as a football fan because I love keeping track of all these guys and stuff. That's going.
We'll see if Nostradamus hits.
Hey, Austin Claunch was on my basketball list.
Let's go.
Someone in the administration messaged me. They're like, "Hey, man, did someone tip you off on that?"
Hey,
I'm like,
nope. We got all of Nostradamus's receipts, baby. I mean, they're there. They're on the AA.com archives, son.
Good or bad. All right. Well, we got to get to a bowl preview. Before we do that, some other big news for UTSA. Transfer portal kicks in. Moderate impact for UTSA. Just listing off all the names in conjunction real quick. Evan Martin, starting cornerback, who semi-starter. They probably started half the games.
Yeah.
Damian Wimberly, reserved defensive lineman. Kingston Jones, a receiver that hadn't seen the field yet. Not too bad. I mean, other teams have definitely been hit harder. Now, granted, the portal is not actually open until January 2nd, right? So these are just the guys that put statements out so that, coaches, agents, GMs, etc., can, start working the back channels and all that. But overall, there's some stings here, but not too terrible. Coming off a 6-6 year, I'd kind of expect them to get hit harder, but
sure.
I guess we'll see what the next few weeks have in store.
Yeah, we'll have to see if there continues to be more of an exodus, but this isn't too bad so far. I think 0-2-2 for sure. This is the biggest loss of the group. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, Davin Martin played the most. I think he probably has the highest ceiling out of this group. He's played well as a young player, but I think once UTSA got both Chapman brothers to commit to be at UTSA next year, Davin Martin's playing time had already decreased once Ahmad stepped in. Even KK Meyer was getting more snaps over Davin Martin late in the season. So I think that one, he's a really good player, and I think he'll end up at a similar level of play and probably continue to have a good career. So that one kind of hurts. But 0-2-2 was the one that's like, man, what are you leaving for?
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe he'll get more rev share somewhere else. I was talking with someone. I'm like, if I'm putting myself in Mike Giglio's shoes, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name actually. The general manager, is it Giglio?
Yeah, I think it's Giglio, but it could be
Yeah,
Giglio. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
But if I'm putting myself in his shoes, I'm not going to extend myself giving a bunch of rev share to defensive linemen because UTSA has proven like they can take walk-ons and turn them into like really productive players. There's already a lot of guys here that are playing at a similar level to 022. So if that is the case, I mean, I get it from his standpoint. Also, just like the way that UTSA rotates, you're never going to get a whole lot of playing time and stats and numbers playing on the defensive line at UTSA. So
I think
I don't know.
I think the question is maybe Tutu, yeah, you don't throw dollars at him because you have some debt. But is there someone else that maybe you put some dollars to now on the roster on the
Yeah,
defensive line?
Ozuwalu, I
The
think is
local guy, right?
yeah.
The local guy, Ozuwalu, you say, hey, look, you're going to get more time and we're going to take care of you. And we want you to be a cornerstone here. I think now you can redirect resources to guys that are here after getting some news like that. Like, hey, we're not going to pay you to keep you, but we're going to pay to change your mind, but we're going to pay some guys to make sure.
Yeah, maybe so. Of course, Ozuwalu and Otutu do play different positions. Otutu's at the nose tackle. But I thought it was pretty interesting that as like within a day or two of Otutu announcing his intention to enter the transfer portal, they put an offer out to a JUCO guy that I think only had like one other offer. But man, his film looked good. And he had good size. He was like 6'3", 310. He was moving around out there. So I think UTSA was ready to roll with this one. And again, just talking, from a Moneyball standpoint of like, return on investment on the roster, if you can get similar play from a JUCO guy that's not going to, demand as much money, that's not as highly recruited, but get similar production, you put that money elsewhere where you really need it, it kind of makes sense. I know it's weird to talk about things in this manner.
Feels like we're talking about an NFL team, right? Like just like
dude, that is how it is now. That is how it is now, right? Things have changed drastically. So in January or February, we should have the numbers of like what UTSA spent on revenue sharing this past season, but that'll be an aggregate number, right? So we're not going to know, how much did Devin McEwen get paid versus, David Amador and stuff like that. But like, those are the decisions that I think really impact how a team performs now going forward.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, not a lot of thoughts, I think, on Damian Wimberly or Kingston Jones. I think Wimberly was probably a pretty big disappointment. I expected him to be, one of the top pass rushers for UTSA. And, unfortunately, I only remember mostly negative plays from him. He did have some good ones, too. But UTSA really needed a pass rusher, and, he wasn't really able to fulfill that. And then Kingston Jones, I think, just kind of got caught in the wash at receiver. Never really broke out there. Might just want to look to play closer to home in Louisiana.
Sure. Yeah, sure. UTSA is holding up well at the beginning of this transfer portal.
But yeah, we'll see. There's a lot of time left to go. I know I've probably said this like 3 times on podcast now, but it is important to reiterate. It's only one portal window now. So it opens on January 2nd. I think they have like 3 weeks to get in the portal. And then after those 3 weeks, they're locked in. So like they can leave the team, but they won't be able to sign anywhere else without losing a year of eligibility. So we're just going to sweat it out for a while. But, so far, so good, I would say, from a portal standpoint for Roadrunners. Now, obviously, getting the extra, couple $1 million of support for the rev share budget is certainly helping out here.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned how we'll find out what the 2024 numbers look like, but it's kind of más o menos what it actually is, right? We do know that Lisa Campos has come out and said, hey, 4 to 5 million rev share is what the number is for 2026. And we won't really spend any time on that, but we do know that we've sort of got that commitment from the administration. And
right, for sure.
That's what Jeff Traylor was pounding the table for.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else before we get into some Patreon shoutouts?
It's bowl season, baby. Christmas is a day late for the Roadrunners. December 26th, 7 p.m. Nice. ESPN. Yes, it's time. It's time, Jared. It's bowl talk for the 6th year in a row.
Let's do it. Well, before we get into the Kumi break and the ensuing FIU preview, we had a pretty huge couple of weeks on Patreon. I think the combination of the early signing day chat we had going on and all that information as well as the list of potential candidates for the OC. I think had people really intrigued. So thank you to everyone who signed up on Patreon. We do have an introduce yourself space in the Patreon chat. So, I hope some of you guys are willing to put yourself out there and say hi to the community and just enjoy being part of it. It's just so fun, to get in there every single day and see like whatever bit of news around UTSA pops up. It's all being discussed in there, and pretty wildly different opinions about stuff too, but everyone's always super respectful and, happy to engage in some healthy debate. So thank you to everyone who joined us at the Insider tier. That includes Brian, Brandon, Jalen, Estevan, Rick, Alex, Jared, Cynthia, Anthony, and Frank. Manny and Jose also joined us at the Booster tier, so thank you to those guys. We also had a couple upgrades to the Booster tier as well. I think all of these were for the recruiting channel updates. So shout out to BJ, Nathan Perez, and David for upgrading to that Booster tier. So we've mentioned a few of the things we've had on Patreon in the last couple of weeks, but one thing that we haven't mentioned yet was a instant reaction episode from Dan and Ryland about the announced upgrades to the bird bath with a video board out in the outfield and the video ribbon board behind home plate. I have to admit, whenever Dan hit me up and said they were going to do a podcast about that, I'm like, Dan, how the hell are you going to record 30 minutes of audio about a video board? But I did an awesome job. It was a great listen. I really enjoyed it. So if you're a baseball fan, you definitely want to tune into that. They had some great topics in addition to just the video board news.
Really fantastic stuff. Big things, big facility upgrades on campus, baby. We love it.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, we'll jump into this commercial break, and then we'll come back to preview the FIU Panthers as we get ready for UTSA's ensuing bowl game. All right, guys, welcome back for the Cumbia break. We are back here today to preview in a very familiar opponent for the Roadrunners they haven't seen in a while. It's the FIU Panthers, our old friends from Conference USA. Still there in Conference USA, though the lineup in that league has changed tremendously. And they'll be meeting in the First Responders Bowl in Dallas at SMU Stadium, day after Christmas, prime time. I haven't heard too much complaining about the bowl, surprisingly. I guess people didn't feel as entitled after going 6-6 this year.
Right.
But man, from a TV viewership standpoint, I think this game is as good as you could possibly ask for. There are some bowls in this conference that probably draw higher, a little bit better slots, kind of in that New Year's window. But for a 6-6 team, this is really, really good. And hopefully we have enough fans to make the trip and enough alumni in the Metroplex that we get a decent crowd out there.
Friday night, 7 p.m., ESPN, day after Christmas. I mean, you really cannot get a better bet for a 6-6 team, for a 500 football team. And yeah, I mean, marquee matchup, far from it, and not really anything that people are going out of their way to watch. But is it going to be on a lot of TVs? You bet your butt it is. It is going to be 100%. On every single sports bar, and it's just going to be on passively in a lot of households.
Yeah, I got a soapbox I could jump on. Oh, should I do it now or another podcast?
I think it's time. I think it's time to jump on your soapbox. Let's go.
So much of TV viewership, brand association, all that kind of stuff is just based off of what TV channel are you on and when. If you're in an average sports bar anywhere in America, very little thought is put into what games are we going to show on TV. You have some really good sports bars where the manager will be kind of monitoring that and stuff. But I would say 80% of the time it's just okay, this one's on ESPN, this one's on ESPN2, this one's on ABC, whatever. And no one really cares about watching the Pacers versus the Hawks in Oakland, California, right? It just happens to be on ESPN and it's on TV. And the same thing applies for college football as well. If you put okay, that was a bad example. If you put Cincinnati in Conference USA, their TV viewership numbers are going to look more close to what FIU's viewership numbers look like than what Kansas State's look like in the Big 12 because of where and when they play on TV. Just that's the number one factor in viewership. Okay.
Incredible analysis. of sports bar TV selection. It is very much true, Jared. And it is.
Okay, I'll prove it. Go into a sports bar and ask them to change it to a certain game. And you act like they've never used a television before. They have no clue how to do that.
Yeah, they'll look at you crazy. Yeah,
yes,
those
dude,
those TVs are
you have the gall to ask me that?
to that channel. It stays on that channel. And the other part of it is also true, Jared. The brand association, brand recognition is more intimately and immediately tied to network viewership than anything else. I would say network viewership and competition. Who are you playing, right? So you walking around, you flying back home on December 28th in your UTSA hoodie, you just might get a comment at the airport in the terminal. You might just get like, oh, hey, we saw the game on Friday. Yeah, that was pretty good. Like, yeah. Someone that had never known about UTSA prior to that or only knew about it very, very little. It just so happened to be on the living room television at the late family Christmas party. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a good dice roll for UTSA. It's a very, very different FIU than
for sure
what UTSA used to play against.
Before we get into FIU, I'll say like probably the one thing that like could have been better from a bowl standpoint was an opponent that at least had a chance to travel to the game. Like even if there were 5,000 FIU fans that wanted to go to this game, it is so hard the day after Christmas to go halfway across the country. Like that was just easy to get to, but just the timing of it, I think, is super tough. But
very interesting that you say that, Jared, because I thought you were going to say an opponent that was more of a marquee opponent, and I think that's what most people. I think a lot of our UTSA fans would trade the ESPN network broadcast for a better bowl opponent. And I think it's wrong. I think you'd rather have an FIU on ESPN than a low-level P4 on FS1, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think people would rather have the more marquee opponent. But you're talking about from a attendance standpoint. You're talking about from an attendance standpoint, it'd be good to have a team that was able to make that trip a little bit better because it's really just going to be a lot of UTSA fans there.
Yeah, like if you would have got a Louisiana Tech, right? I mean, I don't think Missouri State is allowed to accept a bowl this year because it was their first year, I think.
Right.
But they won 7 games. Like, I bet their fans would have traveled pretty well to Dallas. It's not that far from Missouri. So, something like that. Yeah. Well, now I'm kind of doubting myself. How far is it from Missouri to Dallas?
Probably not as far as you think.
Yeah.
A lot closer than Miami.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, let's get into it. I mean, like you said, this is a completely different FIU program. I feel like for, 6-7 years now, everyone who's like really plugged into Florida football would always say like, when is a school going to take a chance on Willie Simmons? He was the head coach at FAMU, Florida A&M, which is the HBCU in Tallahassee, and he had just done a tremendous job. I mean, that was a really, really hard job. I think they're in the MEAC conference, super lowly funded, and just a really hard job. And he's just been a very consistent winner for them there, and just really built a program there. I would say, like not just winning at a high level, but also just building it sustainably. But he just kept getting passed over for all these jobs that he was like the ideal candidate for. And I think there's definitely some bias about like hiring a coach from an HBCU. Unfortunately, there's already bias about hiring from FCS in general. But when it's an HBCU that's like super lowly funded and like the budget is gonna quadruple for them, and like are they going to be able to adjust to that? Well, I think Simmons gave a pretty tremendous answer in his first year. This is FIU's first winning season since 2018.
Since 2018, bro. Since 2018, that is Butch Davis,
right?
Yeah, bro. And that was Butch Davis's second year going 9-4, and everyone thought FIU was on the up and up. They actually won the Bahamas Bowl that season, and then he just nosedive straight down. Not really sure what happened there with Butch Davis in the FIU train, but he goes from 9-4 to 6-7.
Dude.
And
there's some stories there, Adrian. I gotta get Eric Henry, at a bar one day because like He's hinted at some stuff that was crazy, but I've never got the details out of him.
Foul play, maybe, dude. Yeah, and it's bad. They go winless in the COVID year. They only get one win in 2021, 1-11. And between 2020 and 2021, they win a grand total of 0 Conference USA conference games. Mike McIntyre goes 3 straight years of 4-8, and look at what Willie Simmons has done in his very first season: 7-5, 5-3 in conference in his very first year. This isn't, just like picking up the pieces and put some stuff. I mean, this is a complete turnaround. This is a complete turnaround that he's done in one single season. Doesn't even like really have any of his guys there. Like, it's pretty remarkable what Willie Simmons did this year, and it's not getting enough credit.
What I love the most about this turnaround is he was so strategic about how he came in, because you usually see a new head coach come in and they want to rip everything out. They want to get all of their boys in there, all the dudes they came up with through the coaching ranks. They want to bring as many of their players over with them, all that stuff. And I would say from what I have seen, I'm not super detailed in everything, but it seems like Willie Simmons didn't do either of those, right? He actually kept the defensive coordinator in place, and they retained almost all of that defense, and they bolstered it with high school recruiting. On the offensive side, he brought in a new OC that he, to my knowledge, had never worked with. This guy was the UAB quarterbacks coach, I think before Dilfer got there, or maybe like left after Dilfer's first year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they went portal heavy on offense, but they did not go portal heavy bringing FAMU guys in, right? They went and got guys that kind of got buried on the depth chart at various places, FCS pull-ups, right? So they were like really, really good about talent evaluation, and also, just trying to kind of look in between the couch cushions, so to speak, from both the coaching and player acquisition standpoint. And I have a ton of respect for Willie for that, because this guy, he's been coaching for a long time. He's got a big, deep network, but he did not just rely on that network to build a winning team in his first year. And to me, that says a lot about him and his humility.
That's right. And we knew it was real in the regional rivalry. FIU gets the big win over FAU in like week 3 of the 2025 season. It was like, oh, whoa, what just happened here? And granted, FAU was by no means, playing great football, but they probably were the better team on paper. And then it was a team like that had those like first year struggles, because they kind of were very up and down the first half of the season. They got better and better as the season went on. You look back at some of those losses that FIU had. I think they lost to like Delaware. Like, that should have never been a loss. Now that you look at it, they will probably win that game, 10 times out of 10 now than in September. But yeah, just really phenomenal stuff from Willie Simmons. And actually, I think this probably once this is a great segue into the first thing that I want to talk about. Jeff Traylor, in his commentary about this game, said one particular thing that stuck out to me and kind of rubbed me the wrong way, actually. He said, and I quote, "We've got to be as excited to play the game as they're going to be. They're going to be excited to play the game." Jared and I have been on this podcast all year long talking about a UTSA Roadrunners team that was playing uninspired football. I would say inspired football and excited football are synonymous with one another. And why is that even a thing that we need to talk about? Why do we need to get excited to play? Why is that hard for us to go? Why is that a thing that we need to try to prepare for? Like, shouldn't we already be excited to play football the way that Willie Simmons' FIU Panthers are?
That's a great call out, Adrian. I totally missed that. I think you're spot on.
Crazy
I
to
think
me.
It indicates to, a lack of excitement in the locker room about this bowl.
Yeah.
Right? FIU has not been to a bowl in such a long time. It's a huge deal for them and their fans. And I think, when you look at bowl season, I always want to get a Power 4 program that, half their team's in the portal and, they don't want to be there. They feel slighted. They have to go play this team. And I'm not saying the gap between FIU and UTSA is the gap between UTSA and, Iowa State or whatever.
Right.
But I think some of those same principles apply, right? I think UTSA's guys are getting paid a lot more. They've gorged on success, right?
Hmm.
Like this team is this program isn't super successful to where a 6-6 year feels like it's a big disappointment.
Right.
So I think there is like some I don't think entitlement is necessarily the word I'm trying to look for here. Um, but some complacency for sure. We've used that word a lot on this podcast this year. So I think FIU's in a pretty good spot, to pull an upset just because this game is going to mean a lot to them. And, Trailer and his staff can't get their guys, equally fired up. FIU is going to sneak up on them for sure.
Right. Right. It's just it's crazy to think that that's got to be a part of what your head coach has to prepare for is getting the team excited to play. And but it is a big part of it. And FIU's rolling. UTSA has not been, right? And that's part of it too. They had a very, very
Mm-hmm.
strong finish, right? They didn't lose a single game in November. They went 4-0
Yep,
to finish their
4-4.
year.
Yep.
So yeah, dude. So FIU's Panthers, really, really fantastic offense. But I would like to talk about the defense first, Jared. Jeff
Mm-hmm.
Traylor actually really emphasized how good they were on defense, how physical they were, how much havoc they caused
Yeah.
with so many sacks on the year. I think close to 30 sacks on the year. Forced fumbles and turnovers. He called their defensive line massive. He said they're very good, they're big, they're massive. Um, how dangerous is this FIU defense?
Well, I mean, I think the portal is going to make them a lot less dangerous,
Hmm.
right? So as we go through these positions and talk about that, it's going to be tough for us to gauge that. I was very surprised when I watched FIU because I saw those sack numbers and I saw that havoc, and I'm like, oh, they must be like terrorizing the backfield. And I guess to an extent they are, but like they actually don't blitz all that much, right? A lot of those sacks that you see are coverage sacks. So
Hmm.
they drop a ton of coverage, right? Their blitz rate is pretty low, and a lot of the time they only send 3 guys. But because their secondary can cover so much ground and they have so much length back there, like that's another thing that really impressed me. Now, granted, all of this stuff is kind of shaky because they've already got 3 starters in the portal in that defensive backfield. But just looking off their first 12 games alone, I mean that to me was like a pretty surprising aspect, which like I guess it kind of makes sense. Like you have such great athletes in Florida and the Miami area in particular that you can build probably a pretty good secondary with like some high school guys and dudes that are under the radar and all that. But yeah, it's not like they've got a nasty front seven that's tearing it up a bunch of sacks. Like I think their defensive backfield is so strong, and like quarterbacks at this level aren't used to seeing coverage that good that they sit in the pocket too long and then they get flushed out and sacked. So that to me was very very surprising.
So the secondary is so good that the defensive line's stats look better.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But their secondary is what has had a bit of an exodus here since the
Yeah,
regular
for sure.
season came to a conclusion.
Yeah, so let's go through the list of just guys that are out, right? So one of their starting corners, Mr. Clark, great name. He has 3 interceptions on the year. He is in the portal. Also, Victor Evans the third. I'm not sure if he's like the starter, but he has a lot of starts in the year. He's in the
Mhm.
portal as well. Now they do have Brian Blades the second, who is another for sure starter, and he's probably their best corner. Like he's a guy that has NFL potential. It looks like he's good to go. He should be playing. But 2 of their top 3 corners are going to be out. And then as you get into the safeties, Shamir Sterling is one of their really good safeties, and it seems like he's going to play from what I've seen. But they actually have a freshman, Josiah McGrew, who like that guy's got power 4 written all over him, and he is in the portal as well. So that guy has several picks this year. So what 3 out of your top 5 defensive backs are
Mm.
probably out for FIU.
Okay. Okay. So that's got to make you feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I think UTSA is definitely winning the player availability challenge for the
Uh-huh.
Bulls. I mean, that's what these things come down to nowadays,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right. And
Granted, like we still have a ways to go, 2 weeks to go. Recording this on the 14th, so a lot can certainly transpire. But from what we know about today, as we're recording, UTSA is definitely in a better position as far as having like their top guys on the field.
well, the defense is the side of the ball for FIU that has had sort of this exodus.
Mhm.
The offense seems to be intact, as we know so far, and the offense was a very, very successful unit throughout the year. In fact, uh, FIU running back Keyshawn Owens was the CUSA Offensive Player of the Year. Um, Keon Jenkins was very solid at quarterback and had a couple good wide receivers to throw to. Alex
Mhm.
Perry in particular was very good for FIU. But this is a team that averaged almost 30 points per game, but was, I think, pretty well balanced in their offensive attack and talented both through the air and really, really good on the ground. Like Keyshawn
Yeah, for
Owens.
sure. Yeah, the only portal edition I've seen from FIU is like one of their starting tackles, Daniel Michael. And I'm not really sure like what they have around him,
Mm-hmm.
but losing a lineman is never good. We talked about Willie Simmons coming in and like really reviewing things and like making moves after he reviewed what he had. And one thing that's really interesting is I feel like nowadays, man, a new coach comes in, you're going to have a new quarterback next year. Like that's almost a
Right.
given. But he decided to roll with Keon Jenkins, who was the starter for the previous 2 years. Real dual threat guy. He
Yes.
not a very strong arm. He can get the ball downfield, but it's going to have some arc to it for sure. But he's a very I think creative dude in the backfield.
Mm.
And a lot of throws that he makes, it's like I think back to that Army game where you're like, this guy's really throwing this ball and like completing it. Like, how's this happening? Keon Jenkins has some of that to him as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's going to get it to the right. It's not going to look pretty, but he's going to get it to the right spot. Like, he's got a good touch on his passes. Kind of like a dude in basketball who like maybe he's not really a 3-point shooter, but like when they get close to the rim, they've got really good touch and they just don't miss a lot of shots there. But one thing that's interesting is like they kept the quarterback, but they really revamped the offense, and they revamped the offense to play to Jenkins' strengths. So that offense now, I mean, it I would say it's a spread option. To be honest with you, I don't think they
Huh.
call it that. And maybe I'm watching the condensed games. I'm not watching a full 3-hour broadcast of FIU, so maybe it's just the plays that they have success on that I'm seeing. But man, like they're running like RPO stuff almost every single play with Jenkins, and they're rolling him out of the pocket so consistently.
Yeah.
So that eye discipline is going to be super important for UTSA, especially in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, definitely a true dual threat. And I like what you bring up on his throwing style, because a lot of those balls are 50-50 balls, and particularly why his touchdown to interception ratio is not very good.
Mhm.
9 TDs with his arm, but 5 interceptions thrown on the year. But dual threat guy, another 5 touchdowns with his legs. Keyshawn Owens at running back, senior running
Yeah, he's
back,
the dude.
nearly 1,300 yards on the season, 1,298 going into the bowl game. So we're certainly eclipsed 1,300 yard mark. 11 touchdowns on the year, 6.3 yards per carry. Really salty stuff.
Usually when I'm previewing a team, I like kind of do some basic research of like who their guys are, before I start watching games. And I didn't do that for FIU. I just went straight into watching some of those condensed games on YouTube. And I watched like 3 or 4 carries from the running back from Keyshawn Owens. I'm like, who the hell is this guy, man? This guy's an absolute stud. And they're going to look like, oh, he's the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Year. I was like, okay, well, there you go.
Obviously. There, yep, makes
Yeah,
sense.
he's got some sincere McCormick to him with him. Sorry, he's
Yeah.
got some sincere McCormick to him, which is fitting because I think Sincere also won a Conference USA Offensive Player of the Year award. Um, kind of a bowling ball kind of back, real low center of gravity, but also very strong. But has that breakaway speed. He's not the fastest running back that you're going to see. Probably not even in Conference USA. But he's like really patient. He uses his blocks very, very well. He's got good vision and good balance as well. It's an underrated aspect of good running back. There's a lot of
Mm.
plays where Owens takes a hit and he stumbles a little bit, but he manages to keep his feet going for another extra 10 or 15 yards. So that stuff really adds up, especially the span of a full season. So he's a great player. I think he's got a chance to play the next level. Probably undrafted free agent kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Runs up that yak. Dude, really, really good stuff from both of those guys. You talk about the RPO. So they run RPO at such a high volume. How do you think UTSA's defense in general fares up to like a heavy RPO, almost option style offense?
I think pretty well for the most part. I mean, obviously the RPO is a little bit different than like facing a true option like Army, but I did think that UTSA was pretty dang disciplined. In terms of assignment against Army, it's just like the plays that they missed on. Army like was super advantageous, right?
Exploited. Yeah.
I think it was that like 82-yard run from their slot back.
Yeah.
FIU's got speed, but I don't think they have the speed quite like that.
Okay.
So I think they'll do okay. I mean, I definitely see this game being a slugfest, Adrian, for sure. Like low scoring. And if I were to make a comparison, I would do another like Dallas Bowl. Remember that bowl game against San Diego State where it's just like a really ugly game and like both teams are kind of trading punches. San Diego
Yes.
State just kind of slightly pulls away at the end just because they had more talent and more depth. That's how I see this game kind of playing out for the Roadrunners.
I swear, like five of the seven bowl games that we played in have been like that. Like every
Well,
single time we're in the bowl games,
just
there's slugfest.
statistically speaking, you look at how many bowl games are in the Metroplex. Like any team in America has got a pretty good chance to go bowling in Dallas. But yeah, it is. It is wild.
No, I'm talking about slugfest. I feel like
Yeah, yeah,
five of the seven bowl games we played, going back to the New Mexico Bowl, were like all those slugfest, gritty,
yeah.
low scoring type of contests.
True. Yeah, true.
I mean, that's what they say. The defense wins championships. Defense in the postseason. That's what you got to
Yeah,
hang your hat on.
yeah. And I wonder too, if just like kind of like the hangover effect of not playing for several weeks. Guys getting in the
Rust.
portal, just kind of
Hmm.
rust, just kind of causes everyone's offense to be a little rough in bowl season. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly so. But I do think that FIU's offense is one that does get going, right? And whenever they get going, they can get scoring. And so it's important for UTSA to put some points up and sort of assert their dominance, I think, from an offensive standpoint, especially if they're going to have guys in the secondary out. Because if we were looking at FIU starting secondary, I would feel very apprehensive
Sure.
about how well our passing game would look.
Hmm.
Because I don't think our wide receivers have played extremely well against top cornerback talent, top defensive back talent this year. Considering the fact that you got three of those top producers already in the transfer portal not going to be playing in the bowl game, you've got to feel a lot better about, McCown with lingering injuries, finding his guys and still being able to make things happen.
Yeah, I just think like over the span of 4 quarters, I think UTSA will wear them down a bit. Just like more depth, more speed, more strength at a lot of positions. But I think my main takeaway with FIU is just like a really well disciplined team, just like in terms of fundamentals. Like I don't really know their penalty numbers and stuff like that, but when I watched like 3 or 4 of their condensed games, like you just didn't see a lot of like boneheaded mistakes from them. In fact, a lot of their wins, like they let the other team lose that game. Like if you watch their win against Western Kentucky, like nothing that FIU did in that game was like really crazy or impressive, but they just like kind of kept the pressure on the Hilltoppers all game. And Western Kentucky's quarterback threw a couple picks that were easy interceptions for FIU. But just because like FIU let Western Kentucky beat themselves, and I think UTSA has shown that they can fall victim to that for sure. So that's another
Yeah.
thing to me that gives me pause is like UTSA's like been sloppy a lot this season. They've not been super well disciplined. Execution's been here and there. So if FIU is able to play a lot more consistently, I think it's going to keep this game a lot closer than like just like the talent on paper would lead you to believe.
Clean football, Jared. Clean football being a big deciding factor in this bowl game. FIU's got 80 penalties on the year. That's about 6.5 penalties per game. To add further context, only one game in double-digit penalty markers. Only one game with 10 penalties. That was against Kennesaw State. But on that same note, only 3 games had less than 5.
Mm,
So, they could put them at a moderate place.
yeah,
But having that clean football and not making the bonehead mistakes sort of in general, because they don't always come by way of penalty. I mean,
right, right.
that's a big difference maker. And yeah, UTSA has shot themselves in the foot plenty of times over the last 2 seasons. UTSA's got to play clean football if they are going to win this game. Because and then you talk about inspired versus uninspired. We've seen this be a game of momentum for UTSA as well. And the Army game was a big factor in that. And that Army played a little bit cleaner, or had the benefit of the doubt from the pinstripes, however you want to measure it. They had a cleaner day. But they also started playing well at the right time, and they kind of got rolling as UTSA kind of fell apart. And that was really the difference maker, in my opinion, in that last game of the year. So, a couple different things, Jared. What else on FIU do we need to look out for? Does UTSA fan need to watch for?
Well, we didn't really talk too much about their defensive line because we were talking about how like they don't blitz a whole lot. But they do have some guys up there that are pretty solid. Zion Chapman, a defensive tackle, looks pretty good to me. And then there's two outside linebackers on the edge that get the majority of their sacks and pressures. That's Keegan Davis and Kenton Simmons at the outside linebacker positions. Both of those guys have 6 sacks in the year. So definitely the ones to watch. And I think you might have mentioned Alex Perry. So he is that Hawaii transfer at receiver that we mentioned. But he's 6'3", so he's a true X receiver. Very physical. I think that's going to be a good challenge for UTSA's defensive backs. Outside of Ahmad Chapman, they're not really big, well-built guys out there for UTSA, which is a change for the Roadrunners. So that's one to watch. And McGuire Anderson's another receiver that's had some like flash catches this year. He's not been as consistently great as Alex Perry, but he's made some catches that were like pretty shocking. So, if he's healthy and he's playing at the top of his game, he could be another dude to watch out for as well.
What about their offensive up front? You talk about the defensive line. How's their offensive line look?
Yeah, I don't know too much about them either way. I noticed they'd run a ton of zone blocking. It seems like mostly like they run the RPO with zone blocks attached to it. It seems like kind of their forte. They're definitely big, though. I agree with Jeff Traylor about that. Like they're very, very large for sure. But I didn't really do a lot of research into the names there.
Well, they had 2 guys make second team All CUSA, and Julius Pierce at center and Jaheim Buchanan at guard, at the left guard spot. The size is definitely there. They do look like some big boys. It just depends, how aggressive, is UTSA going to be up front. I mean, they've got such a good run game. FIU does in Keyshawn Owens, and so you kind of need to be careful. And also sophomore running back Anthony Carey's nothing to scoff at either. Mm-hmm. He averages 4.5 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns on the year too. He doesn't get quite as many, but whenever he has to go relieve Keyshawn Owens when Owens needs a breather, nothing to scoff at Anthony Carey.
Yeah, he's like their like big body back, right? He's the big dude.
Yeah, and then
6 foot 200 pounds.
What a fantastic last name for a running back, Anthony Carey.
Yeah.
We talk about the name battle. So what, would you have this RPO heavy and run attack heavy? How are you sort of altering your defensive approach schematically, right? You don't want to blitz as much. You do want to blitz more. Anything else different that UTSA's defense might be doing?
I would say probably less blitzing, right? Like you don't want to give them the opportunity to run into a blitz and then get, really easy yards and turn that into a big play. Mm-hmm. Most of Robert Henry's big runs this year have been him running into the blitz. So I think you do have to be careful with that. Also, additionally, with the fact that, the quarterback, I think, is more likely to really hurt you with his legs than his arm. That's not to say that he can't make throws, but, he is very explosive when he gets outside of the pocket. So, right. I think if you can maintain good coverage in the back end, that might be a better bet, right, than to, bring a lot of pressure and he runs outside and, someone bust contain and, it's a 15-yard play without him even have to throw the ball. So I would say like less blitz, just try to win more one-on-ones up front. And I think Shad Banks will need to play a great game as well as Kendrick Blackshire if he's healthy, because those linebackers are so key in that RPO attack. Like that's going to be the first read to see, if they're approaching into line of scrimmage or backing off in a coverage.
Maybe stay at home is a defensive key to the game for UTSA. Yeah. Well, UTSA is favored by 8.5 points here. A week and a half before this kickoff happens. Feels pretty strong for the Roadrunners. It is going to be kind of like a home game for them. UTSA, American Conference. Say a notch higher than CUSA as far as the strength of schedule goes. I think UTSA is certainly on paper a stronger, better football team. But, for the 2025 Roadrunners, I just don't know how much that really counts for being the stronger team on paper.
Yeah, I mean, FIU was a stronger team on paper as well. and they lost by 10 to
Right.
FIU.
Right. And I think UTSA has been a stronger team on paper a couple of times in 2025, and they came out on the wrong side of that game.
Yeah,
Those
for
games. Sure. Right. So I think Trailer's spot on. We got to get the boys ready to play football. They got to be excited.
Yeah.
We got to have high spirit, some inspired football for UTSA. Impacts, Jared, winning or losing this bowl game, does it matter for UTSA in the grand scheme of things?
Realistically speaking,
2025 offseason.
Probably not that much. It would be Jeff Traylor's first losing season ever as a head coach, so that would be pretty bad.
Wow.
But I think at this point, you're already like kind of planning ahead to the 26 season and what that's going to look like. So, I don't know if it really moves the needle all that much, but.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it carries too much weight. However, when we talk about the accolade, lack thereof, of the first losing season, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. We definitely want to avoid that. We don't want that.
And, if they do lose, this would be another loss to a team with less resources, less rev share, less NIL than UTSA. A team that already has 4 starters in the portal before the portal even opens. It'd be a pretty tough look. So they better get it done.
The team that plays in the conference that you graduated from as well, right? Yeah. I mean, the optics of that always kind of suck.
For sure.
Score predictions, Jared.
Well, at first I was thinking that FIU was going to beat the spread pretty easily. I was originally thinking like a 4-point UTSA win, but as I went and looked into like which guys are already in the portal for FIU, that kind of boosted my confidence quite a bit. Especially, man, some of those defensive backs, they were some real players, dude. Like those guys are going to go get paid at Power 4 for sure. So I have UTSA winning by about a touchdown. We'll call it like UTSA 30, FIU 23.
Yeah, I've got FIU 21, UTSA 34. I think UTSA wins pretty handily. I think it's pretty tight at the beginning, and UTSA runs away with it in the second half. We've got the home field advantage. I think we're going to be playing good football. I think Owen's going to look good.
Yeah, the crowd difference is going to be massive. I mean, UTSA will be like probably 10x what FIU brings.
I think the time off for Owen is going to do so much for him. The fact that he hasn't had to throw a football or get tackled full contact for 3.5 weeks is going to be tremendous. And he's going to be out there fresh, and he's going to look fantastic.
Yeah,
and
not concerned about Hunter Redmond calling plays.
I'm not. I don't think it's going to look too much different than what we've seen, right? I mean, he's watched Justin Burke do it. It's not like Hunter Riddiman's going to throw out a completely new offensive playbook for the bowl game. So I you kind of just let the guys do what they do well, and maybe make some adjustments here and there. I think that might be the one really exciting thing to watch for Hunter Riddiman is what if UTSA does get into a situation that doesn't look good in the first half? What if it is a second quarter where UTSA is down 3 points or 7 points? And the adjustments that Hunter Riddiman makes, are we going to see some of those? I think that's something really exciting to watch for.
Yep.
But no, I'm not concerned about him calling plays.
And then last question, as far as player availability goes, like, we went through the guys that are already in the portal. There could be more. Are there any guys that you worry about sitting out for like NFL prep reasons? I mean, I think namely Robert Henry is the guy to watch here, but like, do you think he plays, or anyone else that you're worried about?
I've already kind of figured Robert Henry wasn't going to play.
Yeah, same.
It's sort of in the back of my mind, but I don't think you need Robert Henry to play.
I agree.
They're going to be just fine.
And I don't think there's anyone else that's like on enough like draft boards that could be a factor for them. There might be guys that like didn't have the grades for it, but like they say they're getting ready for the NFL. Like we've seen that happen before. So we'll see. But I think UTSA is going to have most of the team available. I think they'll be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think, even without Robert Henry, Willie Henderson is going to be fantastic, and he could have his own big time party for the bowl game himself. But
good time for coming out party for Amarian Peterson.
Amarian Peterson could get a lot more share than what he's been able to. I mean, hasn't had too many carries on the year outside of like those garbage times. So it'd be nice to see. But I'm very, very high on how Owen is going to look with the time off. So I think Owen's going to have his best day of the year in 2025, day after Christmas.
If he's gonna have his best day of the year, they're gonna score a lot more points than whatever you predicted, dude.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah, when I say 34, yeah, if he has his best day of the year, yeah, we could see a 40.
I mean, he's already dropped like what 250 burgers this year. Like, he has to pump that number up, dude.
This is true.
Yeah,
it's true.
But no point taken though. All right, man. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a great podcast. We hit on a lot of stuff, so stay tuned. Some announcements to make. So I am going to be out of the country for the rest of the year. My wife and I are going to see a friend get married in Vietnam, and we'll be hanging around Southeast Asia. So don't expect me on the instant reaction or the bowl recap. I'll be back for signing day. Maybe some other stuff along the way. But it'll be the Adrian Hobby show while I'm away.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Javi picking up the slack as he has for me. You've noticed I've kind of been missing from a couple of Patreon bonus episodes and early sign day episodes. It's been a really big, busy couple of months for the Bermudez family. We are relocating out of state. We are moving as a family. In fact, to the home of the FIU Panthers, Pitbull Stadium. We're moving to Miami, and so this has been a massive undertaking for the Bermudez family over the last couple of months. So big kudos to Javi Cardenas and picking up the slack on the podcast. And now Jared can go take his time off and Javi will fill in for him. And we're going to have tons of fantastic bowl content. There won't be any pause or slow down on the bowl content for you guys. And even whenever I'm in Miami, there's nothing going to change to your regular Alamo Audible programming routine, right? So yes, we will be here for you.
We've been keeping it under wraps for a while, so glad to have it out in the open now. I was wondering if people might catch on to, something was different, but think you hit it pretty well.
You may notice I've been missing. You may notice like my backdrop has been changing. Sometimes I'm in different rooms. My bed isn't made. Ooh, you got to make your bed. Dude, I'm packing up an entire house. I'm worried about the damn sheets on the bed. Get out of here. Listen to the audio version of the damn podcast. So if it's bothering you that much. I
feel like you should have picked FIU to upset, just like to troll, and then at the end, then announce that you're moving to Miami. Like, that'd been pretty good.
I will tell you, UTSA does play in Boca Raton for the Florida Atlantic game in 2026. Mm-hmm. I only have enough room for Jared and the boys in our new spot.
Dude, if you're a big money donor tier, you get a better room.
However, I do very much look forward to the traveling Roadrunner contingency. I will be at that game, needless to say, in SoFlo. So come and see your boy in my new stomping grounds down in SoFlo.
Yeah, awesome. Well, congrats again, Adrian, to you and your family. Really excited to come visit you guys. I did talk to my wife. We are planning to be at FIU next year, so definitely plan to see you there. We'll see how things turn out.
Let's go. By the time this is going out live, I mean, I think we've got listeners that are actively booking their flights before the end of this episode recording. So very good stuff.
All right, well, we'll wrap things up with a big shout out to our board of trustees and big money donors on Patreon. The Board of Trustees members, thank you to DigiTeek, John Otwell, Gary and Ruben, reference to the UTSA Burke Tailgate, Ray Redding, Andy Elizada at Proficient Benefit Solutions, Ian McClendon of Seeker LLC, Javon Townsend, President of the DFW chapter of the UTSA Alumni Association, Waterman Construction, UTSA Annual Giving, Brandon Padron, UTSA Gang Bowser, and Runners United. We go to www.goutsco to support UTSA student athletes. I became an annual member of Runners United recently.
Let's go.
So if you guys will consider joining me and supporting RevShare and NIL at UTSA.
Yes, and, fantastic.
Adrian, you want to run us through the big money donors?
Yes. Big shout out to Ben Tovar, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta, and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Alejandro Benavides, Dan Nerdahl, our host of Around the Bird Bath podcast, Jacob Cavazos, the former board president of the UTSA Alumni Association, John Nally, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, Sumner McDaniel, Joe Rodriguez, UTSA grad 1998, Russell Rincon, Brandy Dunnigan, realtor with the Social House Group, and Home Field Apparel, where you can still save 15% on your first order with the code UTSA Wants Home Field. Also, the Alamo Audible Fan Shop, another place where you can get a great Roadrunners gift for your loved one this giving season.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And we'll be back soon with the bowl recap, hopefully with a resounding victory for our Roadrunners to secure a winning record on the year. We'll see you guys next time.